The massive station floated in the darkness of space like a jewel catching starlight. Harmony Station was bigger than most cities, a place where aliens from across the galaxy came to meet and talk. Today was special. Today was the Apex demonstration, something that happened only once every 10 years. Inside the main hall, creatures of all shapes and sizes waited. Some had scales that shimmered like oil on water. Others had too many eyes or too many legs or bodies that seemed to shift and change when you looked at them. They all stood around. Large transparent containers, each one holding something dangerous from their home planets. The Vrelian ambassador stood tall and proud next to his container. Inside was something that looked like living crystal, sharp edges catching the light as it moved. It could walk through walls, he had explained earlier. Nothing could hide from it. The Molthari delegates chittered excitedly around their box, which held thousands of small insects that moved as one mind. They could eat through metal, through stone, through anything. Every species had brought their planet's most dangerous predator. It was tradition. It showed strength. It showed that your people had survived against the worst nature could create. The doors at the far end opened. 2 humans walked in, pushing simple, wheeled carts. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look. Jiwan Park was a small woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore the formal diplomatic uniform of Earth, dark blue with silver trim. Beside her walked Minho Choi, taller and broader, with the same uniform and the same calm expression on his face. They pushed their carts to the designated human area and stopped. The Vrelian ambassador, Vexmore, moved closer. His species was old, powerful, and respected throughout the galaxy. He looked down at the human containers with his 4 eyes narrowing in confusion. One container held a small child. She looked about 3 years old, with chubby cheeks and black hair and 2 small ponytails. She was sitting on the floor of the container, playing with colored blocks and humming to herself. The other container held an orange cat with white paws. The cat was curled up, sleeping peacefully on a soft cushion. "Is this a joke?" Vexmore's voice rumbled through the hall. His translation device made his words sound like distant thunder. "You were instructed to bring your apex predator. Every species brings the most dangerous creature from their world." Yuan smiled politely. "We brought exactly what you asked for, Ambassador." Around the hall, other delegates began to whisper. Some laughed. The Kethran delegation, warriors known across 6 systems, made clicking sounds that their translators rendered as amusement. The humans had either misunderstood completely or were making fun of the entire ceremony. Minho stepped forward. His voice was calm and clear. "This is Youngji. She is 3 years old. This is Biscuit. She is a housecat, 5 years old. Both are from Earth." "A child?" A Molthari delegate's voice buzzed with confusion. "And a small domestic animal? You insult this gathering." "We insult no one," Juwan said. She walked to Yunji's container and pressed a button. The front wall became transparent from both sides. Yunji looked up, saw her mother figure, and squealed with delight. She pressed her small hands against the transparent wall. "Mama G1!" The child's voice was high and happy. "Look, I made a tower." Several delegates stepped back. The child showed no fear. She was happy, playful, completely unaware that she was surrounded by some of the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. Vexmore's face, which humans could not easily read, seemed to show something like anger. "You will explain this now, or you will be removed from this summit, and Earth's application for council membership will be rejected." Before either human could answer, something strange happened. Yunji had grown bored with her blocks. She stood up on wobbly legs and toddled toward the transparent wall of her container. But she was not looking at Jiwan or Minho. She was looking past them. At the Kethran container. The Kethran predator was massive. It stood on 6 legs, each one ending in claws that could tear through armor. Its body was covered in scales that changed color to match its surroundings. It had been pacing back and forth in its container, aggressive and alert, since it arrived. The Kethran delegates were proud of it. It had killed 12 rivals to become the dominant hunter in its territory. Yunji walked right up to the barrier, between her container and the viewing area. She was now less than 5 feet from the Kethrin Predator's container. She pressed her face against the transparent wall and smiled. "Kitty," she said happily, pointing at the massive creature. The Kethrin Predator stopped moving. It stopped mid-step, one clawed foot still in the air. Its scales rippled through several colors rapidly, something the Kethrin delegates had never seen before. The creature's 3 eyes locked onto the small human child. Then it did something that made every delegate in the hall freeze. It backed up. Slowly, carefully, it moved to the far corner of its container and made itself as small as possible. Its scales turned a pale gray color that, according to the Kethrin delegates, meant extreme submission or fear. The entire hall was silent. The only sound was Yunji giggling and tapping on the glass. "Nice kitty, pretty kitty." A Kethrin warrior named Wolf moved closer to the container. He looked at his species' apex predator, then at the human child, then back at the predator. He spoke in his own language first, something harsh and confused, then switched to the common tongue. "This is not possible. Our hunter fears nothing. It is trained. It is dominant. It does not submit to prey." Minho walked over to stand beside Wolf. "It is not submitting to prey, Commander Wolf. It is recognizing another predator. That is a child." Wolf's voice rose. "A baby of your species. It has no claws, no venom, no weapons." "No," Jiwan agreed. "She does not, but she has us." On the other side of the hall, the orange cat named Biscuit woke up. She stretched, her claws extending briefly before retracting. She yawned, showing small, sharp teeth. Then she noticed the attention on the area and the various aliens staring. She looked at them with green eyes that seemed completely uninterested, then began grooming herself. A Vrelian junior diplomat made a move toward the cat's container, curious about the small creature. Biscuit stopped grooming and looked directly at him. She did not hiss. She did not run. She simply stared with those green eyes, unblinking. The Vrelian froze. Something in that stare, something about the way the small creature showed absolutely no fear, made his survival instincts scream warnings. Vexmore looked at the 2 humans, at the playing child, at the grooming cat, and at his own people's reaction to them. He spoke slowly. "You will give your presentation tomorrow. You will explain this. If your explanation is not satisfactory, there will be consequences." Jiwan nodded respectfully. "Of course, Ambassador. We look forward to it." That night, in their quarters, Minho sat with Yunji on his lap while she ate dinner. Jiwan was feeding Biscuit, who purred loudly. "They are afraid," Minho said quietly in Korean, knowing the translators would not pick it up. Double quotes. "Yes," Jiwan agreed. "They just do not know why yet. Tomorrow we tell them." Yunji, not understanding, simply smiled and offered her father a piece of her cookie. Minho took it and smiled back. Biscuit, having finished her food, jumped onto the couch and curled up next to them. In containers throughout the station, apex predators from 47 worlds paced nervously, all of them somehow aware that something was very wrong with what they had sensed today. The next 3 days were filled with demonstrations. Each species had their turn to show what made their apex predator special. The viewing hall was packed with delegates every day, watching with appreciation and respect. The Vrelian went first. Their crystal predator was released into a testing arena filled with obstacles and hiding spots. Mechanical prey, designed to move and react like living creatures, ran through the space. The crystal hunter simply walked forward. When walls blocked its path, it passed through them like they were not there. When prey tried to hide, it found them anyway. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The delegates clapped in their various ways. Some made clicking sounds, others hummed, and a few simply remained silent in respectful acknowledgement. The Molthri went next. Their insect swarm was released in a closed arena with a broken ship inside. The swarm spread out instantly, covering every surface. Within 20 minutes, the ship was gone. They had consumed it completely, working together with perfect coordination. The Molthri delegates buzzed with pride. Day after day, species showed their predators. Each one was impressive in its own way. The Kethrin hunter could change its appearance to become invisible. The Thross brought a creature that could swim through stone like it was water. The Pelion showed a predator that could predict where prey would move before they moved. Then came humanity's turn. Jiwan and Minho stood in the center of the viewing hall. Yunji's container and Biscuit's container were beside them. The hall was packed. Everyone wanted to see what the humans would do. Many expected entertainment. Some expected embarrassment. A few were genuinely curious. Dexmore spoke from his position at the head of the council. Humanity, you will now demonstrate why you brought a child and a domestic animal to represent your world's apex predator. The council is waiting. Minho stepped forward. He pressed buttons on both containers. The walls slid open completely. No barriers, no protections. Yunji immediately ran out. She was wearing a yellow dress today and her favorite shoes that lit up when she walked. She ran straight toward a group of smaller aliens, the Pix delegation, who stood about 3 feet tall and had blue fur. Fiends! Yunji shouted happily, her small arms spread wide. 3 of the 6 Pix delegates ran. They simply turned and fled behind larger aliens. It was instinct, pure and simple. Something small and fast was running at them, making loud noises. Their prey instincts kicked in before their brains could process that it was just a child. Yunji stopped, confused. No play? One of the braver Pix delegates, an older female named Tixie, stepped forward carefully. She made herself speak. Hello, small human. Yunji smiled brightly. Hi, I am Yunji. Want to see my drawing? She pulled a crumpled paper from her dress pocket. It showed stick figures in various colors. Biscuit, meanwhile, walked out of her container with complete confidence. She stretched, arching her back. She yawned again, showing those small teeth. Then she simply walked across the hall like she owned it. She walked right past the Vrelian delegation. One of the junior Vrelians reached down to shoo her away. Biscuit stopped. She looked up at the Vrelian. Then she did something unexpected. She rubbed her head against his leg, purring loudly. Her tail went up, the tip curved in a friendly greeting. Then she walked away, completely unconcerned with the massive alien she had just touched. The Vrelian stood frozen. His companions stared. The small creature had shown no fear. Worse, it had initiated physical contact like he was not a threat at all. For a warrior species like the Vrelian, this was deeply confusing. Lexmore's voice boomed across the hall. Enough! What is the meaning of this display? Where is your demonstration? Jiwan stepped into the center. This is our demonstration, Ambassador? But first, let me ask the Council a question. What makes a predator apex? Silence. Then both the Kethrin commander spoke. Strength, speed, weapons, intelligence, the ability to kill any threat. Good answer, Minho said. But incomplete. An apex predator must have something else. Something more important than any weapon or any strength. He activated a hologram projector. Images appeared in the air above them. Earth animals. Wolves hunting. Lions stalking. Bears fishing. Eagles diving. Earth has many predators, Minho continued. Many of them are stronger than humans, faster than humans, have better weapons than human teeth and nails. But humans are the apex species. Why? More images appeared. These showed human history. Ancient humans running across plains, following herds, walking for days without stopping. Humans are endurance predators, Jiwan explained. We did not evolve to be the fastest or the strongest. We evolved to simply never stop. Our ancestors would pick a prey animal and follow it. The animal would run. We would walk. It would run again. We would walk. For hours, for days. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion. Then we would walk up to it and finish the hunt. A Molthari delegate buzzed a question. This is interesting history, but what does it have to do with the child and the animal? Everything, Minho said. Because humans did not stop with hunting. We applied the same method to everything, including other predators. New images appeared. Wolves becoming dogs. Wild cats becoming house cats. Horses becoming riding animals, birds becoming companions. Humans domesticated over 40 different species, Jiwan said. We did it the same way we hunted. We were patient, persistent, we did not force. We simply kept showing up, kept offering food, kept being present, generation after generation, until predators chose to live with us. She gestured to Biscuit, who was now exploring the Multhery delegation area. Cats are predators. They are hunters. But their ancestors chose to live near humans because we had food and shelter. They domesticated themselves because being near humans was safer than being alone. This proves nothing, Lixmore said. You trained animals? Many species do this. No, Minho shook his head. We did not train them. Training breaks the animal, makes them afraid. We befriended them. There is a difference. During this conversation, Yunji had been playing with Tixie. She had given the Pix delegate her drawing. Now she was sharing her snack, small crackers from Earth. She broke each cracker in half and gave one half to Tixie. Why do you share your food, small one? Tixie asked, genuinely confused. In her species, food was never shared outside of mating pairs. Because sharing is nice, Yunji said happily. Mama Jiwan says sharing makes everyone happy. Tixie took the cracker with trembling paws. She did not understand this behavior at all. The child had food. The child was small and vulnerable. The child should protect her food carefully. Instead, she was giving it away freely to a stranger. And she was happy about it. Wolf had been running scans during the presentation. Now he stepped forward. I have analyzed the human biology. They have forward-facing eyes. Predator eyes. Their bodies are built for endurance, yes, but also for tracking. Their teeth can eat both meat and plants, but their front teeth are sharp. They are predators. Everything in their evolution says predator. Yes, Jiwan agreed. We are predators. But that is not what makes us apex. She called Yunji over. The little girl ran to her, carrying several more drawings she had made for various delegates. Biscuit, hearing Jiwan's voice, came trotting back as well. She jumped up onto a display platform and sat next to Yunji, grooming her paws. This is what makes humans apex, Jiwan said quietly. We decide something matters. A person. A creature. An idea. And then nothing in the universe can make us stop protecting it. We brought Yunji because she is a human child. We brought Biscuit because she is our companion. And we wanted you to understand one thing very clearly. Minho stepped beside his colleague. His voice was gentle, but there was something underneath it that made several delegates stand straighter. If anything threatened them, anything at all, humans would not stop coming. We would not negotiate. We would not accept substitutes. We would simply keep coming until the threat was eliminated or we were dead. And more humans would come after us. And more after them forever. The hall was very quiet. Even the usual humming of the station seemed muted. Your Catherine Predator recognized this yesterday, Jiwan continued. When Yunji approached, it did not see prey. It saw a juvenile under protection. And some deep instinct told it that harming a human juvenile would bring down consequences it could not survive. Lexmore was silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. You bond with creatures and call it strength. You protect your young and call it apex behavior. This is not impressive. This is basic biology. Many species do this. Do they? Minho asked. Then let me ask another question. How many species here have brought their children to a station filled with apex predators from 47 worlds? More silence. The answer was obvious. Only humans. We rest our case, Jiwan said. Tomorrow we will answer any questions the council has. As they left the hall, Yunji held Minho's hand and waved at all the delegates with her other hand. Biscuit walked beside them, tail high, completely unbothered by the hundreds of eyes watching them leave. Behind them, the delegates began to talk, argue, question, but everyone agreed on one thing. The humans had given them much to think about. The council chamber was full again on the fourth day. Every delegate had returned, and many had brought their senior advisors and military commanders. Word had spread throughout Harmony Station about the human presentation. Everyone wanted to hear what came next. G1 stood at the center of the chamber. Behind her, massive holographic displays waited, dark and ready. Minho sat to the side with Yonji on his lap. The little girl was coloring quietly, using thick crayons on paper. Biscuit was curled up on a cushion nearby, half asleep but with her ears swiveling to track sounds. Dexmore called the session to order. The council recognizes humanity. You have presented your case. Now you will answer our questions and provide evidence for your claims. We will, Jawan agreed. She activated the first display. Let us talk about what it means to be a persistence predator. The hologram showed an ancient human running across grassland. The image quality was poor, reconstructed from archaeological evidence and genetic memory, but the movement was clear. The human was not sprinting, just running at a steady pace, mile after mile. Most predators hunt in bursts, Jawan explained. They are fast for short distances. They ambush. They hide and strike, but then they must rest. Their bodies overheat. Their muscles need recovery. Humans are different. New images appeared. Modern humans running marathons. Soldiers on long marches. Rescue workers operating for days during disasters. Human bodies cool through sweating. We can regulate temperature while moving. Our legs are designed for efficiency, not speed. Our feet work like springs, storing and releasing energy. We can run for hours, walk for days, and we heal while moving. A Throst delegate raised a tentacle. This is known. Endurance predators exist on many worlds. It is not unique. True, Minho spoke from his seat, still holding Anjia. But humans took it further. We did not just use endurance for hunting. We used it for everything. We explored our entire planet by walking. We migrated across continents. We crossed oceans on boats, rowing for months. When we found obstacles, we did not turn back. We simply kept trying until we succeeded. Jiwan brought up new images. These showed human space exploration. When we reached our planet's limits, we built machines to go further. We sent probes to our solar system's edge. We built generation ships to reach other stars. Some of those ships took hundreds of years to reach their destinations. The humans who started the journey died long before it ended. But they went anyway. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The idea of starting a journey you would never finish was disturbing to many species. Now, let us talk about bonding, Jiwan continued. The display changed to show wolves. 50,000 years ago, humans met wolves. Both were predators. Both competed for the same prey. By normal evolution, they should have been enemies. The image shifted, showing progression. Wolves near human camps. Humans throwing scraps. Generations passing. Wolves becoming dogs. Humans did not capture and force the wolves to obey. They simply kept offering food, kept tolerating their presence. Generation after generation, the wolves who were less afraid of humans survived better, had more cubs. Eventually, wolves evolved into dogs, partners, companions. You said cats domesticated themselves, Wolf noted. Explain this. The display showed ancient grain stores. Small wildcats hunting mice. Humans allowing them to stay. Cats are solitary hunters. They do not form packs. When humans began farming, we stored grain. Grain attracted rodents. Rodents attracted cats. We let them stay because they were useful. They stayed because we did not chase them away and food was plentiful. Over thousands of years, they evolved to live with us. We did almost nothing except exist near them. Biscuit chose this moment to wake up, stretch, and walk over to a group of Vrelian military officers. She sat down in front of them and meowed once, demanding attention. After a moment's hesitation, one of the officers reached down and carefully stroked her head. Biscuit purred and rubbed against his hand. This behavior, Jawan gestured to the cat, is not natural for a predator. Wild cats do not seek touch from creatures larger than themselves. But this cat was born into a world where humans exist. She knows, instinctively, that we protect her. She trusts us completely. This still does not explain why you call yourselves Apex, a Pelian delegate said. Their translator made their voice sound like weighing through metal. You have shown patience and persistence. Admirable traits. But they are not Apex traits. Minho stood up, gently moving Yonji to his chair. She continued coloring, now drawing what looked like the various aliens she had met. He walked to the center of the chamber. You are correct. Patience and persistence alone do not make us Apex. Let me show you what does. The display changed. Now it showed human history, but different parts, battles, conflicts, disasters. Human history is filled with war. We fought each other constantly. Humans killed more humans than any predator on our planet ever did. We were very good at killing each other. His voice was flat, factual. But there was always a line we rarely crossed. The images showed field hospitals, medics treating wounded enemies, soldiers sharing food with captured opponents. Even in war, humans usually protected children, usually protected the wounded, usually followed rules. Not always. We have done terrible things. But the exceptions prove the rule. You do not protect children and wounded unless it is deeply important to you. New images appeared. These showed humans rescuing others during disasters. Earthquakes, floods, fires. When disaster strikes, humans run toward danger. We dig through rubble for days to find survivors. We swim into floods to pull out strangers. We walk into burning buildings to carry out people we have never met. This is not logical behavior. It is not efficient. But we do it anyway. Yuan took over. Humans have a concept we call pack bonding. We will form emotional connections with almost anything. Other humans, animals, plants, sometimes even objects. We name our vehicles, talk to our computers, form attachments to places. And once we decide something or someone is part of our pack, we protect it. She gestured to Yunji, who was now showing her drawings to Tixi, the Pix delegate who had befriended her. The small blue-furred alien was looking at a picture of herself, drawn in crayon with the words, "My friend Tixi," written in a child's handwriting. Yunji has been here 4 days. She has already decided many of you are her friends. In her mind, you are now part of her pack. If we told her we were leaving and she would never see you again, she would cry. She has bonded with you. Child's emotions, Dixmore said dismissively. She will forget in time. Maybe, Minho agreed. But we will not. Do you know what happened when another species attacked human colonists 30 years ago? Before we had formal contact with the larger galaxy? He brought up new images. These were harder to look at. A small human colony destroyed. Buildings burned. Botis scattered. The Krell raiders hit a colony world. Killed 400 humans. They thought humans were alone, unprotected, easy prey. His voice got quieter. They were wrong. The display showed what came next. Human ships. Not military vessels. Just whatever ships humans could find. Civilian ships with weapons strapped on. Transport vessels with armor welded to their hulls. Every human who could hold a weapon volunteered. We tracked the Krell back to their home system. It took 3 years. The Krell thought they had escaped. They were rebuilding, making plans for more raids. The last image showed the Krell homeworld. Or what was left of it. We did not take their planet. We did not enslave them. We simply made it very clear that if they ever touched humans again, we would not stop until their species was gone. They believed us. They have not raided anyone since. The chamber was silent. Even the usual background noises seemed to have stopped. This is what makes humans Apex, Jawan said softly. We bond easily. We protect fiercely. And we absolutely never forget. If you harm something we have claimed as ours, we will find you. It might take years. It might take generations. But we will find you. And we will make sure you never do it again. Yunji walked over to Jiwan, holding up her picture. Mama Jiwan, I made pictures for everyone. Can I give them? Jiwan knelt down, her expression changing completely from the serious diplomat to something warm and gentle. Of course, sweetheart. That is very kind of you. Yunji went to each delegate one by one. She had drawn pictures of all of them. They were simple crayon drawings that barely looked like the aliens they represented, but each one was clearly made with care. Each delegate received their picture. Some took them carefully. Others seemed confused. A few seemed genuinely touched. When she reached Wolf, the large Catherine warrior, she held up a picture of what was probably supposed to be him. You are nice, she said simply. I like you. Wolf took the paper with his large claws, being very careful not to tear it. He looked down at the small human child who showed no fear of him whatsoever. Thank you, small human Yunji. As Yunji continued her rounds, Minho spoke again. You all saw your predators react to her. They sensed something. They knew, instinctively, that she was protected. That harming her would bring consequences. That knowledge is not learned. It is deeper than thought. It is survival instinct recognizing an apex species. Vexmore stood. His 4 eyes looked at the humans, at the playing child, at the cat who was now being petted by multiple delegates. The attack came without warning. It was early morning by station time. Most delegates were in their quarters, resting before the council's final session. Gyuan was reviewing notes. Minho was making breakfast for Yunji. The little girl was playing with Biscuit, dragging a ribbon across the floor while the cat chased it. Then the alarm screamed. The lights shifted to emergency red. The station's automated voice spoke in dozens of languages at once. Breach detected. All personnel to safe rooms. This is not a drill. Breach detected. Minho moved instantly. He grabbed Yunji, who started crying at the sudden movement. Gyuan ran to their equipment locker, pulling out 2 sets of armor that had been labeled as ceremonial. They had not lied. The armor was ceremonial. It was just that human ceremonies sometimes involved actual combat. What is happening? Uzi cried, scared and confused. It is okay, baby, Minho said gently, even as his hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking weapons that had also been labeled ceremonial. We just need to be safe for a little while. The station shook. Somewhere something exploded. Jiwan was already accessing the security network through her communication device. Her face went hard. Talvek swarm, multiple breach points. They are using biological weapons. Minho cursed quietly in Korean. The Talvek were not part of the Galactic Council. They were raiders. Hive-minded creatures that viewed individual consciousness as weakness. They had been quiet for years. Apparently, they saw the summit as a target, another explosion, closer this time. Through their quarters window, they could see parts of the station venting atmosphere before emergency seals closed. Small shapes were crawling along the outside of the hull. Talvek drones. We need to get to the safe room, Jiwan said. She had her armor on now. It looked ceremonial, decorated with patterns and symbols, but it was military-grade protection. Minho was putting his on with one hand while holding Yunji with the other. They moved into the corridor. Other delegates were there, confused and scared. The Pix delegation was trying to organize their people. Tixie saw the humans and ran over. What is happening? Are we under attack? Yes, Jiwan said simply. Come with us. We know the way to the safe rooms. They moved through the corridors in a group. The humans took the lead. They moved differently now. The polite diplomats were gone. These were soldiers, trained and experienced. They checked corners, watched their flanks, kept the civilians behind them. More explosions. The station's automated defenses were engaging. Through the walls, they could hear the sounds of the various apex predators in their containers, roaring and screeching. The animals could sense the danger. They turned a corner and found chaos. A group of Talvek drones had breached an inner wall. They were insect-like creatures, each one about the size of a large dog, with too many legs and mandibles that dripped something acidic. Behind them, crawling through the breach, were larger warrior forms. Several Vrelian soldiers were already there, fighting, but they were falling back. The Talvek were using some kind of organism that ate through energy shields. The Vrelian weapons were designed for clean, distant kills. They were not prepared for swarm tactics. Minho handed Yunji to Jiwan. "Get everyone to the safe room." "I will help here." "Minho," Jiwan started. "Go, now." His voice was calm but absolute. He drew a weapon from his armor. It was not elegant. It was designed to kill things at close range and keep killing until empty. Jiwan grabbed Yunji tight and led the civilians past the battle, taking a different corridor. Yunji was crying, her face buried in Jiwan's shoulder. Several of the Picts followed. Tixie ran beside them, her large ears flat against her head in fear. Behind them, Minho reached the Vrelian line. "Commander, fall back to the next checkpoint." "I will cover." The Vrelian officer looked at him. "Human, you cannot." Minho just started firing. His weapon made a harsh, mechanical sound. Talvek drones fell. He did not aim carefully. He simply put bullets into the mass of advancing enemies. When one weapon ran empty, he drew another. He walked forward slowly, pushing into the Talvek line, giving the Vrelians time to retreat. "What is he doing?" One of the Vrelian soldiers whispered. "He will die." But Minho did not die. He just kept moving forward, kept firing. When a Talvek drone got too close, he simply stepped aside and shot it at point-blank range. His armor was already covered in acid burns, but he did not slow down. Meanwhile, Jiwan reached a junction. She could hear the safe room ahead, but she could also hear something else. Small, frightened cries. A child's voice, her blood went cold. Yunji was right here in her arms. That meant, "There is another human child on the station," Tixie said, her ears swiveling to track the sound. "A family from the human delegation. They have a daughter." Jiwan made a decision in half a second. She handed Yunji to Tixie. "Get her to the safe room, now." "But," Tixie started, "now." Jiwan's voice was not loud, but it made the small alien jump. Tixie grabbed Yunji and ran. The other Picts followed her, protecting the crying child. Jiwan turned toward the sound of the crying and ran. She found them 3 corridors away. A human family, pinned down in a service corridor. The father was wounded. The mother was holding their daughter, maybe 5 years old, and trying to shield her with her own body. 3 Talvek drones were advancing on them. The family's weapons were empty. They were going to die. Jiwan did not announce herself. She simply opened fire. The Talvek drones turned, confused by this new threat. She killed 2 before they could react. The third charged her. She dodged, used the butt of her weapon to knock it off balance, and then shot it through its head section. "Can you walk?" she asked the father. He nodded, pale and shaking. Yes, we can move." "Then move." "That way. Safe room. Go." They went. Jiwan stayed behind, covering their escape. More Talvek were coming. She could hear them in the walls, scuttling through the ventilation systems. This was bad. The station's security had been breached badly. Her communication device crackled. Minho's voice. "Jiwan, where is Yunji?" "Safe room. With Tixie and the Picts delegation." A pause. "You are not with her." "No, found civilians. Could not leave them." Another pause. Then just one word. "Location?" She gave him her coordinates. Then she said, "Minho, do not—" "Already moving. Hold position." The communication went silent. Jiwan checked her ammunition. She had maybe 3 magazines left. She had killed 7 Talvek already. There were probably dozens more on the station. This was going to be difficult. In another part of the station, Yunji was in the safe room with Tixie and the others. The room was crowded with delegates from multiple species. Everyone was scared. The alarms were still blaring. The walls shook with each nearby explosion. Yunji was crying. "I want Mama Jiwan. I want Papa Minho." Tixie tried to comfort her. "They will come, small one. They will come." But even as she said it, Tixie did not believe it. The station was under attack. The humans were soldiers, yes, but they were only 2 people. How could 2 people survive against a Talvek swarm? Then the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, but it was dim. In the darkness, they heard something that made everyone freeze. Scratching sounds. In the walls. In the ceiling, the Talvek had found the safe room, back at the junction. G1 was down to her last magazine when Minho arrived. He looked terrible. His armor was melted in places. He was bleeding from several cuts. But his eyes were clear and focused. Yoonji? He asked. Safe room. Sector 7. They both knew what that meant. The safe rooms were designed to be, well, safe. But if the Talvek had breached this deep, nowhere was safe anymore. They looked at each other. No words were needed. They had been married for 8 years, partners for 12. They knew what came next. They turned and ran toward Sector 7, not away from the danger. Toward it, toward their daughter. Toward the people under their protection. Behind them, the Vrelian soldiers who had been watching this exchange looked at each other in confusion and something like awe. They are running toward the swarm, one said quietly. They know they might die and they are running toward it. The Vrelian commander, an old soldier who had fought in 17 battles, watched the humans disappear into the smoke-filled corridor. They are not running toward the swarm, he said slowly. They are running toward their child. The swarm just happens to be in the way. He hefted his weapon, and I think we should help them. He looked at his soldiers. The humans were right about one thing. Some things are worth protecting, even if it costs everything. The Vrelian squad, the galaxy's most respected warriors, followed the 2 humans into the darkness. The safe room's emergency lighting flickered. In the dim red glow, dozens of beings huddled together. Pix, Molthari, smaller species that had come to the summit to observe. And in the center, a small human child crying for her parents. Tixi held Yoonji close. The scratching sounds in the walls were getting louder, closer. The Talvek were cutting through. Then Tixi noticed something. Biscuit was there too. In the chaos, the cat had somehow followed them. She was sitting near Yoonji, her ears flat, her eyes wide. When Yoonji reached for her, Biscuit pressed close to the child, purring. Despite the danger, despite the fear, the small cat was trying to comfort the crying toddler. Brave little creature, Tixi whispered. The ceiling panel buckled. Claws poked through. A Talvek drone started forcing its way in. Then another. And another. The delegates screamed. They pushed back, away from the breach. But there was nowhere to go? The room was sealed. They were trapped. The first drone dropped through. Its mandibles clicked. Its many eyes scanned the room. It started forward, toward the mass of potential prey. Then Biscuit did something that every being in that room would remember forever. The small orange cat, all 10 pounds of her, stepped between the Talvek and Yoonji, her fur puffed out, making her look twice her size. Her ears went flat. Her pupils dilated to full black. And she hissed. It was not a loud sound. Not scary by any reasonable measure, but there was something in it. Something primal. The sound of a predator saying mine. The Talvek drone paused. Its species had no concept of individual courage. It operated on hive mind efficiency. But some ancient instinct made it hesitate. Biscuit did not hesitate. She lunged. Claws out. Teeth bared. She hit the drone's head section, scratching, biting, a fury of orange fur and rage. The drone tried to shake her off. She held on. Her claws dug deep into the gaps in its carapace. When the drone's mandibles snapped at her, she twisted and bit into what might have been its eye cluster. The drone shrieked, a sound like metal tearing. It stumbled back. Biscuit dropped off, landed on her feet, and immediately positioned herself in front of Yoonji again. She was bleeding. One of her legs was hurt. But she stood her ground. 2 more drones dropped through. Biscuit charged again. She was going to die. Everyone in the room knew it. A small Housecat against 3 Talvek drones was not a fair fight. But she was buying seconds. Precious seconds. Then the door exploded. Jawan came through first, firing before she was fully in the room. 2 drones fell. Minho was right behind her, taking down the third. They moved like a single unit, covering each other, their movements practiced and efficient, but more drones were coming through the ceiling. The breach was too large now. The safe room was compromised. Everyone out. Jiwan shouted. Move, now! The delegates ran. Tixie grabbed Unji and followed. Minho scooped up Biscuit, who was barely conscious. The small cat's leg was broken and she was losing blood, but she was still trying to hiss at the Talvek. They poured into the corridor. The Vrelian soldiers were there, forming a defensive line. More delegates from other species were arriving. Word had spread about the humans' actions, about how they ran toward danger to protect others. It had shamed the warriors, inspired the soldiers, united the delegates. Now they fought together. Vrelian energy weapons, Kethrin physical prowess, human persistence and coordination. They pushed back against the Talvek swarm, but the Talvek kept coming. The station was infested. Every corridor seemed to have more drones. Every room could hide warriors. G1 and Minho found themselves holding a narrow choke point, a corridor that led to the main evacuation route. If the Talvek got through, hundreds of delegates would be cut off. Go, Minho said to Jiwan. Take Yunji, get to the evacuation ships. No, Jiwan, no. She reloaded her weapon. We hold here, together. They held. Wave after wave of Talvek came at them. They fired until their weapons were empty, then used whatever they could find. Pieces of debris, emergency tools. At one point, Minho was fighting with a broken piece of pipe. Other species soldiers watched in amazement. The humans took hits that should have dropped them. Acid burns, claw wounds, injuries that would make most species retreat. But the humans just sealed the wounds with emergency foam and kept fighting. Why do they not fall back? A young Vrelian soldier asked his commander. Volth, who had joined the defense, answered. Because falling back means the Talvek get through. And if the Talvek get through, they reach the evacuation point, where Yunji is. The Vrelian looked at the 2 humans, fighting side by side against impossible odds. They will die. Perhaps, Volth said. But the Talvek will have to go through them to reach that child. And I think that will cost the Talvek more than they are willing to pay. He was right. The Talvek kept coming, but the humans did not break. They were bleeding, exhausted, running on empty. But they held the line, then reinforcements arrived. Real reinforcements. The station's main security force had rallied. They came with heavy weapons, with proper armor, with the resources to push back the Talvek properly, but they found something unexpected. They found humans fighting alongside Vrelian, Kethrin, Molthari, and Pix. They found species that had barely tolerated each other working together. United by the example of 2 humans who would not abandon their post, the battle turned. The Talvek, faced with organized resistance instead of scattered civilians, began to retreat. Their hive mind calculated the cost and decided it was too high. They pulled back, escaping to their ships, leaving their dead behind. 3 hours later, the station was secured. The emergency was over. Minho sat in the medical bay, getting his wounds treated. Jiwan was next to him, also being patched up. Between them, in a small medical cot, was Yunji. She was asleep, exhausted from crying. And curled up against her, also sedated while her leg was set and her wounds treated, was Biscuit. Dexmore entered the medical bay. His ceremonial robes were torn and dirty. He had fought too. Most of the council had. The council has reached a decision, he said formally. Jawan tried to stand. Minho stopped her. We can hear it sitting down, Ambassador. Dexmore looked at them. At their injuries. At the child and the cat they had nearly died to protect. Humanity is granted full council membership. Unanimous vote. Furthermore, the council has created a new position. Guardian of the Peace. Humanity will fill this role. What does that mean? Jiwan asked. It means that when threats arise, when the weak need protection, we will call on humanity. Because today you showed us what true apex behavior looks like. Not the strongest predator, not the deadliest hunter, but the species that decides something matters and then refuses to abandon it. He gestured to the corridor outside, where delegates from dozens of species were waiting. Everyone here saw what you did, saw how you fought. But more importantly, they saw why you fought. For a child. For a companion animal? For strangers you barely knew. That is power greater than any weapon. Minho smiled tiredly. Does this mean Earth gets a vote in council decisions? Yes, and a seat on the Security Council. And access to our defense networks. And probably several species who will now insist on having human guards for their important events. The Exmore's expression was hard to read for humans, but there might have been respect there. You have made quite an impression. Later, after the Exmore left, Volth came to visit. The large Kethran warrior stood awkwardly at the door. I came to see the small fighter, he said quietly. Biscuit? Jiwan smiled. She will recover. Broken leg, some scratches, but cats are tough. She charged 3 drones to protect the child. She knew she would die. She charged anyway. Volth looked down at the sleeping cat. We have a word in our language. Treshka. It means warrior despite size. We give it to fighters who show courage beyond reason. I think your small cat has earned it. He placed something on the medical table. A small medal, Kethran military, given only to their bravest soldiers. For Biscuit. Treshka. Warrior despite size. After he left, Jiwan picked up the medal and looked at it. Then she looked at her sleeping daughter, at the small cat pressed against her, at her husband beside her. We did good today, Minho said softly. We did what was necessary, Jiwan corrected. Then she smiled. But yes, we did good. 6 months passed. Harmony Station was repaired and expanded. A new wing was built for the Galactic Protection Initiative. Humans led the training, but volunteers came from every species. They learned human tactics, persistence, teamwork, the importance of deciding that something matters and then protecting it absolutely. Yinji was 4 now. She visited the station regularly with her parents. The delegates who had been there during the Talvek attack always made time to see her. Tixie had become a regular correspondent, sending messages and small gifts. Volth had sent a toy that looked like a Kethran warrior, carefully sized for a human child. Biscuit had fully recovered. She walked with a slight limp now, but it did not slow her down much. She wore a small collar with the Kethran medal attached to it. She had no idea what it meant. She was a cat. She just knew that people gave her more treats now, and strange aliens wanted to pet her when she visited the station. In the Galactic Protection Initiative headquarters. There was a photo on the main wall. It showed a small orange cat, fur puffed out, standing between a human child in danger. Below it was a caption in dozens of languages. This is apex behavior. Size does not matter,